I definitely feel like, even if we aren't St Kilda fans here, we were all pretty shocked to see the recent news that came out that the St Kilda Football Club just offered a player 10 years worth $17 million. And again, I think it wouldn't be as much of a shock as if it went to, a guy like Harley Reid or whatever like that. But it went to a guy by the name of Finn Callahan, who, don't get me wrong, is a really, really good and young, underrated player. Again, I think there was a lot of shock because there are still those who don't realise that by 2031, the AFL is going to be signing a new TV rights deal, which will essentially mean that, from all reports, the salary cap is going to go up about 33 to 40%. So when you see the highest paid players in the game right now are on about 1.5 to 1.6, of course, by 2031, that's going to be more like 2.5 to 2.6. So realistically, a guy like Finn Callahan, who could become one of the better players in the AFL very, very shortly, making about 1.5 million or so per season, isn't actually that bad in the whole, grand scheme of things. But the issue is that Finn Callahan did not accept this St Kilda offer. Instead, he elected to re-sign with the GWS Giants on a reported 4-year deal. Again, we don't necessarily know how much this is going to be, but considering this deal is going to be happening and finishing before the new, of course, AFL TV right deal contract comes into play, that means that this contract, instead of being about 1.5 or so a year, will probably be around, I don't know, he might be on like $1 million or so per season, depending how much I think GWS can even fit in their salary cap, because I know they've already got a lot of other players on $1 million a year, but I'm just guessing to match that St Kilda offer and the reported other big offers, GWS probably had to pay a little bit more than what they thought they were going to have to pay Finn Callahan. But the thing is, why I'm talking about this in today's video is because this is not going to be the last contract that we see that is going to look like this, this season. I think, and I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't just St Kilda, it was a bunch of other clubs, you are going to start seeing a bunch of those 21 to 23-year-olds in the AFL right now be offered those 10-year deals reportedly worth $15 to $20 million. And again, St Kilda have a couple other players that they are potentially going to be offering those deals to. Not necessarily the 10 years, probably going to be more so the 6 to 7 years. And of course, a couple of those guys we have already heard of does happen to be Tom De Koning, who has apparently been offered a similar deal to that, just obviously way less years, and a guy like Luke Davies-Uniacke, who I genuinely wouldn't be surprised if he was offered like a 6 or 7 year deal by St Kilda. Again, worth about that 1.5 million per season. The reason so many clubs right now are starting to offer these 6 to 10 year deals, very similar to like what Richmond offered Noah Bolter, does so happen to be, again, as mentioned earlier, the TV rights deals are starting in 2031. That's when the AFL is going to start negotiations with Channel 7 on extending the TV rights and, of course, giving them a ton more money, which a lot of it is going to be used on the AFL salary cap to pay a lot more players. Again, the interesting thing, though, with this upcoming 2031 TV rights deal is it's not just going to be 7 who are battling for the rights to have AFL games anymore. You're going to see companies like Channel 9 who are going to really trying to match Channel 7. You're going to see companies like DAZN who are really starting to get in the sports media right now. I think, outside of boxing, are really going to probably offer a big deal. And I wouldn't even be surprised if a company like Netflix, who I believe has had boxing fights with like Jake Paul now, have had WWE come to their service. I think they might have even had an NFL game or so. Correct me if I'm wrong. Again, Netflix They've put a lot of stock in Australian TV and the Australian market. Don't be surprised if they even come in and try and do a deal as well. There'll be a ton of different companies who are trying to make a deal with the AFL to have TV rights, to have streaming rights, to have all the games, all of the above. And with more competition is more companies trying to outbid each other, which means that eventually these AFL contracts are going to get pretty crazy. And again, I think that Finn Callaghan one is just the start of it. I think, yes, that reported offer that St Kilda had for De Koning, I think they're probably going to offer him that as well. They're probably going to offer a similar deal to LDU. And the reason all of these are going to be happening is these AFL teams are really going to be back-ending these contracts. For example, Finn Callaghan on that big deal that was worth $17 million over 10 years, for maybe his first couple of years, like first 4 or 5 years of that deal, he might have only been making $900K to $1 million a year. But in the next 5 years, it will dramatically increase. And that will be about the same time that the TV rights deal comes into play, which means that Saints will have more money to offer, of course, these players like Callaghan. So a lot of these contracts will be back-ended. So it's not to be scared by saying that, oh, you know, if you're a Saints fan, you're like, crap, we're well overpaying, trying to pay Callaghan here. We're well trying to overpay Davies-Uniacke and De Koning. Realistically, they are not overpays when you think about that they're going to be very, very back-ended. And by the time the back-ended salaries kick in, there'll be a new TV rights deal, meaning that every AFL team's salary cap is probably going to go up by, I'm thinking at least 35%, probably all the way up to like 45%, depending realistically how much, again, this new TV rights deal is worth. You're going to see other teams now who are, I think, even by this off-season, going to be offering Harley Reid, a guy who looks like he could be the best player in the AFL one day. You're going to see teams start to offer him, like, again, 10 years, probably 20 million, which might sound crazy, but realistically, again, in 5 years' time, when we do look at it, it'll be like, oh, crap, you know, Harley Reid's the highest paid player in the AFL, but he's probably not going to be highest paid by that much. I think there's going to be a lot of deals that are going to look like that. Again, as I said, Harley Reid's deal will probably very similar look to a couple of these other players where maybe in the first couple of years he's making 800 to $1 million, but in his last year he's going to be on like 2.5, something like that, right? It's just how it's going to be is what the future of the AFL is going to be. So anyone who is getting a little bit shocked by these contracts, they are semi-justified when you realize that that TV rights deal is going to be absolutely massive. So I think this is good by St Kilda. I think they're really making their mark on the competition here by saying that, look, we want to be a powerhouse club in the AFL. And I've quickly realized by making St Kilda videos on YouTube how many St Kilda fans there actually are. Like, I feel like a lot of people have St Kilda in the ballpark of the lower AFL teams like North Melbourne, GWS, and Gold Coast. But I actually really don't think that's the truth at all. And I wouldn't be surprised if in a couple years or so, if St Kilda, do like even make the 4 one day, if you start to see them selling out Marvel Stadium on a regular occurrence, they start to sell out AFL finals again, and a lot of big name players want to come there. And I think that's what they're going to be pitching players like Davies-Uniacke. They're going to be pitching players like De Koning. And I wouldn't be surprised if this free agency, they came out with not only one big fish, but maybe 2 or 3. And you can see they're really trying to hit this hard with going for guys like Finn Callaghan and De Koning and, of course, Davies-Uniacke. So, again, if you're a St Kilda fan and you're genuinely tweaking out and saying that, oh my God, we're overpaying all these players, these are ridiculous contracts, they're actually not in the whole grand scheme of things. That by the end of these deals, these players who, like LDU and Davies-Uniacke, who will probably be on 1.6, 1.7 by the end of their 7-8 year deals, don't be surprised if again, by their 7th and 8th year, you're seeing guys in the AFL who are on like genuinely 2.5, 2.6 million. If that, like, Jesus Christ, it could probably be more. I don't really know. It is going to be very interesting to see how these AFL contracts and whatnot do unfold, and I'm just so interested to see what's going to happen with this TV deal. I'm assuming they're going to re-sign with Channel 7. Their biggest competitor will probably be Channel 9, but I wouldn't be surprised if DAZN and Netflix, who maybe they're trying to get into that free, streaming market of these sports games, which I think they'll be trying to over the next couple years. I wouldn't be surprised if even they offered some deals that tried to compete with 7 and 9, especially considering DAZN and Netflix are really trying to tap into the Australian market now. Wouldn't even be surprised. But again, if you haven't already, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for all the latest AFL content news. Don't forget to comment your thoughts and opinions on this all down below. Do you guys think that some of these contracts by St Kilda are good offers, or do you guys think they're not? Again, I'd very much like to know. Subscribe to my gaming channels and my IRL/vlogging channels. Links for them will be in the description down below. And I guess I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.